evening, good morning, and good afternoon to all the members of PMI and distinguished guests who have attended this session from different parts of the world. On behalf of PMI West Bengal chapter, I, Pratik Singh, the Secretary of PMI West Bengal chapter, warmly welcome you to this amazing session with all the excitement. Before I start, let me state the rules that we are going to follow for today. Throughout the session, you will be muted. And if you are unmuted and if you are allowed to speak, please speak. And when you are not speaking, please keep your microphone on mute mode. The second thing is that for keeping the entire conversation interactive, please feel free to use the chat window and question and answers window to put across your thoughts and your questions so that we can collate all together and present it at the end. And to take this session forward, now let me take the privilege to welcome our president of PMI West Bengal chapter. She's someone, when I first saw her for the first time, I was awestruck by the mindful and empathetic leadership style that she has. She is a humble leader who is mentor to many. The most impressive thing that I found about her is if you come with any problem, she has a solution to it with a smiling face. Professionally, she works in IBM as an associate partner. Ladies and gentlemen, with a huge round of applause, let us welcome our charismatic and remarkable president of PMI West Bengal chapter, Ms. Shawan Sen Nandi. Sandy, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Pratik. Now that was too much of adjectives for me. But yeah, thank you for those wonderful words. So again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the participants from whichever part of the world you're joining us from. Today, we have participants from North America, from EMEA, and of course, members from the various chapters of our very own Region 11. A warm welcome to all of you on behalf of the PMI West Bengal chapter. We are extremely honored to be able to host Mr. Lambert for our webinar today. And I remember the first day that we spoke and, Lee with his quintessential smile asked us, so what do you want me to speak about? And an awestruck and stupid answer from my end was everything, Lee, anything. But but then when we brainstormed, we really found out that the core value of PMI is all about volunteerism. And that's how we zeroed down on today's session, volunteerism, which binds all of us together, which brings us to this platform together today. I'm sure all of you are waiting very eagerly to listen to Lee. But since we have got participants from across the world, many of whom are not the chapter members, I am actually taking a little bit of advantage of that and trying to, make West Bengal chapter known to all of you. So a brief about this chapter. West Bengal chapter, we have just started on our teen years. So this year, that's 2022, we begin our 10th year of inception. I take this moment to thank each and every chapter leaders, past as well as present, because without their passion, their belief, their vision, their dedication, and their the strong belief about PMI values, the chapter wouldn't have been where we are today. So thank you, everyone. The geographical boundaries of this chapter is a little wide. I mean, it's just not restricted to the West Bengal state in India, but it also includes Jharkhand, Orissa, and all the northeastern states of India. Now, as a chapter, we have tried to bring value to members from this region, though I would be very candid and honest, we have not really been able to make a lot of impact there. And today, now that I have around at least 160 participants already on the call, and I know many more have registered, I really want to appeal to all of you that should any one of you have any contacts or you would yourself want to anchor, please do reach out to us, because we would really want to have a satellite chapter in these states and bring more value to the members of the state. So today, I again seek help from all of you so that we can do something better for Jharkhand, Orissa, and the northeastern states of the country. Please join us in this chapter, in this journey. Now, what is West Bengal chapter really known for? While akin to other chapters of the region, we do our customized set of trainings, whether it is, and it's a diverse set of clients, right? I mean, it starts from the West Bengal Health Department to the Indian Railways to the West Bengal Power Development Corporations to, of course, the various corporates and the academia world. But something for which we are really passionate about, and that one thing for which we are immensely proud about, and that is about the engagement that we have with the organizations, with the NGOs who work with the social sector, because we enable them with the tools, the techniques, and the right things for their project management expertise to grow, so that they are able to bring in more positive outcomes to the projects that they deliver, because that's a grassroots level impact. Whether we are working with the youth development team of Sundarban, which is, many of you would know, that's a World Heritage Site, but yet, yet very, very remote and quite impoverished. So starting from Sundarbans to the work that we do with Save the Children, we always strive to create some impact to the grassroots level. And again, another appeal to all of you that please join us in this journey, because we could always do with more hands. And just to sort of, and I know all of you must be eagerly waiting for Lee, but just wanted to share one thought which we share as a board and as the core value of PMI West Bengal chapter. As the world is limping back to normalcy, the mayhem of the last 2 years, if there's one thing that we have all been taught, it is that we will need to hold on to each other. We will need to cover each other's back. We will need to work together and strive together as a community in order to survive. And so, again, as the president of West Bengal chapter, I reach out to you. Please join us in our journey. Let's collaborate, let's create, let's try to make the world better. With this, I hand it over back to you, Pratik, for an icebreaker session with the participants. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our President, Ms. Ann Nandi, for such an insightful thought about what PMI West Bengal chapter does. And it's really so proud that I am being part of this chapter and really witnessing this event. Ladies and gentlemen, to keep the excitement very high, now we are going to have one quiz session. And to have this quiz session, I have my friend who is going to collaborate with me, Mr. Sumit Bhaumik. So I'll share my screen. Mr. Sumit will share the screen. And I would request each and every one of you to put on your thinking cap. And with your thinking cap, there are going to be 10 questions. Please start answering these questions. And there is going to be exciting prizes at the end. So with all the excitement, I would request and urge you to participate in this quiz. So let's start the quiz. I'd request Sumit to please share the screen so that the participants can go to the Slido portal and put their name.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, your screen is visible. And to the participants, I would request you please use your full name so that we can identify the winners at the end. If you use any short abbreviations, it will be very difficult for us to understand your full name. So I would request you to use your full name. Please go to this portal slido.com and enter this event ID, which is 2022229, 4 times 2, 9. Yes, let's see who all have started to participate. Please go to slido.com or use the QR code, which is there in the screen to go to this website. Yes, I can see a lot of participants. I will wait and give time for others so that they can also join. Yes, the excitement is really going high. I can see a lot of participation in this. I'll repeat once again, please open this slido.com and enter the event ID, which is 2022229. Or you can scan the QR code and enter this website directly. Right now we have 53 participants, another 100 to go. So I am waiting for another 100 more participation. Yes, the numbers are going high. Right now we are at 80. We are expecting some 30 to 40 more participations. I would request and urge all the participants to please. Yes, somebody is asking for the code. I'll put the code in the chat itself. It is 2022229. This is the event code. Or you can scan the QR code from your mobile and directly enter to this Slido portal. What is the number now, Sumit? And what is the excitement level? Have we crossed 100?
Yeah, I think just too short from 100.
Too short for 100. So once we get the 3-digit number of 100, we are going to start. Yes.
We are just now 100.
Wow, we have crossed the 100 mark. We will wait for a couple of seconds before we start. So request all the participants who are present here to please scan the QR code and feel free to participate in this quiz because you are going to get exciting prizes at the end. Sumit, what do you say? Shall we start now? Are we good to go?
Yep.
Yes. So ladies and gentlemen, we are starting the quiz and here is the first question on your screen. In which year project management professional certification program was formally introduced?
And you are definitely not allowed to answer this.
So here we can see the answers and let's see what's the correct answer. The highest voting that we have got is 1981. 32% of the audience feels that. Yes, the correct answer is 1981. And for your information, even today I'm wearing a t-shirt highlighting PMP. So that is the kind of enthusiasm we all are having today. So let's see who is leading in this leaders board. We have Olubunmi Yamitan. So this particular person is leading the vote. Congratulations. Now we are going to move to the next question. So please be very much conscious that it's the best of all the 10 answers and how quickly you answer it. So I'm moving to the next question. The next question is, Mr. Lee R. Lambert was nominated as PMI Fellow in the year of? We have started getting the answers. $1999, the highest percentage. Let's see what is the correct answer. The correct answer is 2009. 20% of the audience got this right. And let's see who is leading. So I can see Saima Mazan is leading the board, 2 out of 2 right. Let's see what happens to the third question. What is the latest PMBOK guide released as on date? You have 4 options: 4th, 7th, 5th, 6th. Seventh has got the highest voting, and now let's see what is the correct answer. The correct answer is seventh. Now let's see who is leading now in the leaders board. It's Saimu Zaman, the same person. Wow. Saimu, we hope to see that you are leading now, but there are others who are following up. Let's see what happens on the fourth question. How will you associate Mr. Lee R. Lambert most closely? Options are agile approach to PM, common sense approach to PM, rational approach to PM, and predictive approach to PM. Let's see what's the correct answer. The correct answer is common sense approach to PM. And now let's see, after this question, fourth question, who is leading in the leadership board? It's Kevin now. Mr. Kevin D. Martin is leading now. So there are others who can also catch up right now. Congratulations, Kevin. Till now you are leading. Let's see who are going to be the top three. What is the current impact factor of project management journal? The options are 4.9, 2.7, 3.5, and 5.2. So let's see what's the correct answer. The correct answer is 4.9. And now let's see who all are leading in the top three of the leadership board with the correct answers. It's Siwantika De Costa, Saimu Zaman, and Ashaki. So these three people are leading now. Here comes the next question on your screen. When is upcoming PMI Global Summit 2022 scheduled? It's the latest thing that's happening. I know they are going to be quick answers. Yes, I have started to see a lot of answers right now. Wow. Already 100 people have responded. Let's see what is the correct answer. The correct answer is 1 to 3rd December 2022. And now let's see who all are leading. It's Ivantika De Costa, Saima Zaman, and Rubina Balakrishnan, a new name in the list of top three. Let's see what's there for the next question. Mr. Lee R. Lambert is the past president of which PMI chapter? I have already started to receive answers. 40 people have responded. This is the 7th question. We have 3 more questions to go. 100 people have responded. Now let's see what is the correct answer. The correct answer is Central OU. Now this is the 8th question that we are going to have. And before that, let's see who all are leading in the top 3. Again, Kevin has come back. Kevin is there, then Rubina and Shivantika De Costa. So these are the top 3. There are others to follow. You can still catch it up. So let's move to the next question. The annual global survey of project, program, and portfolio managers tracking the major trends in project management is properly known as. I can see the pulse of profession has got the highest answer of 39%. And let's see what's the correct answer. The correct answer is pulse of the profession. Let's see who all are leading now. Kevin, Krishnan, and Ashaki. So congratulations, they 3 are in the top 3. Now here we are in the penultimate question. So we have 2 more questions to go, and let's see who all are going to be the top 3 winners. The company where Mr. Lee R. Lambert started his professional career. I have already received 100 answers. So people are very quick now. Close to 100. 49% is General Electric. Let's see what's the correct answer. The correct answer is General Electric. This was a penultimate question, and let's see who all are top 3 leaders in the leadership board. Kevin, Krishnan, and Rubina. Now, the last question, which is going to ultimately decide the top 3 winners. Here it is on your screen. Which dimension is not part of global PMO maturity index? Let's see what's the correct answer. The correct answer is method. And here the quiz finishes. Congratulations to Kevin, D. Martin, Krishnan Srinivasan, and Rubini Balakrishnans. We as a team will get back to you. This is the top 3 leaders. Congratulations once again, and a thunderous round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to the top 3 winners. Wow, what an exciting session we had. And to take the session forward.
Pratik, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
Kevin, Krishnan, and Rubini, if you could please, in the chat, send your email IDs, then we will get in touch with you with the surprise gift. Thank you.
Yes. And even I'm excited to know what is going to be that surprise gift. So hold on and let's see what's the surprise that PMI West Bengal chapter gives to you. To take this session forward, ladies and gentlemen, I'll hand it over to my very, very close friend. Professionally, I was interacting with him a decade back when I used to have a lot of problems in my earlier organizations. And today, see, the world is like that. In a circle, we are now volunteering for the same organization, that is PMI West Bengal chapter. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome our new and passionate volunteer that we have for today, Mr. Pallav Rohatgi, to take the session forward. So, Mr. Pallav Rohatgi, please take the session forward from here.
Thank you, Pratik. And to take the session forward, I would like to welcome Lee to this session. And just to give a brief introduction about Lee, Lee needs no introduction, first of all. To give just a brief introduction about Lee, Lee is the father of what we now tell is PMP. He only founded, he was one of the founders of PMP. And moreover to say, the day he started volunteering is the day when I was born. So he has got so many years of experience that I should not say much about him. So thank you, Lee, for coming to us and giving us your part of experience so that we could do what we want to do in our volunteerism. Just thank you, and over to you, Lee.
Thank you very much. That's so far, this has been the best webinar I've ever been on. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. I did happen to get all 10 out of 10, but I got lucky on one and guessed. But the rest of them I got. And Kevin, a good friend of mine is Kevin, and I'm surprised that he missed the one he missed. But I think he'll go back on that and remember it as we go through the process. But a fun way to start, a nice way to get some people involved. Listen, what I've done, I don't have like a formal PowerPoint slide presentation. I thought a long time about how I want to go about this. I'm going to divide it into 2 sections. The first part of this program, before the chapter gets to show you a very informative video, is going to be about the process itself, about why people volunteer, about how many people volunteer, that kind of thing. And then the second part of the session is going to use some of my real world experience to validate what I'm telling you in the first part by looking at some of the projects that I've been an active volunteer in that have led to great things, but more importantly, have facilitated my penchant for volunteering. I'm a volunteer addict. I mean, I love to volunteer, and it gives me an opportunity to do things that in a normal job description I wouldn't get to do. So I'm gonna have a lot of fun talking to you about this. If you have questions, we're gonna have time to deal with those. But hold them if you can till the end of each section so that we can have a continuity of the flow. But let me tell you, I got a couple of things. First of all, definition. There's a whole lot of dictionary definitions, but the one I like was said it's people who offer to do work for no pay. Every volunteer effort is work. Don't misunderstand. When we say volunteer, we don't mean you get to get out of work. It means you're doing a different kind of work than you've normally done. So it's the person who decides, I'm willing to do work for free. Now there's a lot of reasons why that is, and I want to talk to those as we talk about this today. But I want to give you some idea of the scope of this thing we call volunteerism. This is some data from 2020. They've compiled a data mark that said during that year there were 8 billion, that's B with a big B, billion hours of volunteer work being done with a monetary value of $228 billion. That's a lot of free work. But the fact of the matter is, you can't imagine what would happen if these volunteers didn't add their value to the process. When you think about nonprofits, for example, which is certainly what PMI is, although they get criticized for having a reasonably good sized bank account. But now that I'm beginning to work strategically with PMI, now that I'm 76 years old, I'm starting to find it takes a heck of a lot of money and volunteer time to keep this organization running. This is a global organization with over 300 chapters. Chapters like West Bengal, the chapters that are out there excited and enthusiastic. Your president got me so excited. I want to volunteer for something. And that's the kind of leaders we want. We want leaders who inspire us to understand PMI is a volunteer organization. Sure, we have paid staff that keep the thing running, but most everything that's accomplished that is of any significance within the PMI realm has come through volunteer activity. So I think we need to remember that and provide opportunities for the members to take advantage of their desires to volunteer. In America, there were 70 million volunteers during that 2020, and there's been an average of 60-some million every year since 2014. And the average person, just like you and me, the average person volunteers 137 hours a year. Now that's not a lot. That's like 3 or 4 weeks of your effort. But the fact of the matter is, when 70 million people are donating that kind of time, then we want to make sure that we understand the potential feedback and value. I also want to point out that America provides 42% of the world's volunteers. 42%. So there's certainly room for America to grow in its volunteerism, but the other parts of the world that are less than that as a percentage of their population have lots of opportunities as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we get into this program, okay? I also want to know, because we're in this time of diversity, that 30% of women are volunteering now. 30% of women volunteer to do work in education and healthcare, in areas where they feel like they can add a lot of value. So you start to see that we have quite a numerical list of what goes on for those people who are volunteering. The trend is more people more people are volunteering each year. This is a trend analysis. More people are volunteering each year, but less hours per person are being spent. So I guess the net is we're getting more hours of volunteer, but less from any one individual. So that's the trend that's going forward right now. Now, I think one of the things I want to talk about are some of the players in this world of volunteerism. We have sponsors, customers, sometimes we call them, who, from a volunteer perspective, are impressed by the fact that workers get so enthusiastic about some of the things that they're doing in the organization that they end up doing them for free. Think about that. If you're proposing a bid for a customer, for a sponsor, and you know historically that you're going to get 137 hours per person that volunteers free, that makes your bid a lot more competitive. And we tend to try not to incorporate that in our bid process. But the fact of the matter is, it has an impact on the end of the day cost of any particular program. So it can have an advantage from the standpoint of winning a contract, for that matter. You have supervisors. Now, your supervisors are the people that you have to be sure are okay with volunteering on the job. Now, we have two kinds of volunteers. We have on-job volunteers and we have after-hours volunteers. Now, a bulk of the volunteers come on after hours, but some volunteers are directly involved in the work that's being done, and they're volunteering their time on the job that they're doing. So supervisors have to be aware of the volunteers that are active on particular activities that they're doing. The workers, these are the volunteers. These are you and me and everybody that wants to help an organization be successful. And that's what, whenever I go to PMI meetings, and I speak at a lot of PMI meetings these days, and I always love to speak, and then I sit down and relax and listen to what's being going on at the chapter level, and invariably there will be a vice president of volunteerism, or they have fancier titles, but basically responsible for overseeing the volunteers in the organization. And it's always saddened me when at the end of the day, they stand up in front of the group. Now, these are obviously in meetings, not in virtual sometimes. They stand up in front of the group and they basically beg people to volunteer. We've got projects that can't be done because we can't get anybody to volunteer. And so the workers are really the ones who make volunteerism work. It's something you can, when you think about 8 billion hours across the world, that's a lot of time that people are giving of themselves to help others, to do other things in their organization. So the workers have to be aware of the benefits that they provide. So let me talk about why we volunteer in a few minutes. The last one I've got on my list, and there's lots of them, is the family. Now keep this in mind. This one's one we don't think about as much when dad or mom's not home every night at a certain time, and the kids are starting to wonder, where's mom and dad? Well, where mom and dad is out volunteering, out doing things to help the community, out doing things to help build relations within the community, park projects and playgrounds and things that are needed within the environment. That's where mom and dad are. Now, we need to make sure the kids understand that. The family members understand it's part of your persona to volunteer, to not just hide away in your house, not helping anybody do anything. Your job is to volunteer. Now, we want you to want to volunteer. Don't get me wrong. If I have to force you to volunteer, then it's not a volunteer. And so we've got to remember, I have a saying that I use in my recruitment of volunteers. And that saying is, the difference between employees and volunteers is that the volunteers want to be there. And I think that really demonstrates the fact of volunteerism. We volunteer because it's something of interest to us. And I'm going to go through a rather extensive list here in a moment. We work because we're getting paid. So somebody's paying me to work. So that's why I'm there. I might not even like my job. I might dislike my job tremendously. But the fact of the matter is, baby needs shoes. I got to get money. I have to support my family. And so I'm there working. But if I'm a volunteer, I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting any remuneration for that. I'm doing it because I feel good about it. I'm doing it for a variety of reasons. So if you haven't volunteered, it might be because you've not come across these reasons yet. So let me give these to you. I just jotted them down actually this morning. I got up and I thought, well, I want to be specific about some things. So one of the reasons is personal preferences, something that I want to do. I'll give you kind of a quick example for myself. When I first started my working career, I was a design engineer. I think they called it that. I don't know. I've had so many titles in my life. A design engineer, but basically what it was a draftsman, someone who took the output from engineers and turned it into drawings that could be built from. Okay. Well, I didn't like that at all. That's actually what I went to school for, and I didn't care for it. It didn't get my motor running, if you will. And so when it was time to find trainers to earn value training for a GE contract, I was the first one to volunteer. And the reason I volunteered was I had a personal preference and said, I don't want to do what I'm doing. And so I volunteered within the organization. I'm still going to get paid to do the training. But the fact of the matter is I volunteered to do that because I had a personal preference that really said, let's get into something else. It could have been something besides earn value. Well, thank God it wasn't, because that's what set my career off on the path that it was on. So you've got that. You've got another one here that I think I'm not so much this way, because I'm, as hard as this is for some of you to believe, I'm actually an introvert. I'm not, I don't go out and intentionally make massive numbers of friends. I pretty well keep to myself. And when I volunteer, I am forced to be much more of a people person, but I'm an introvert. Well, some people aren't. And one of the things that we sort of highlight from the fact of being a PMI member, and I'm disappointed in the number of members that PMI has. If you think about the number of project managers, now we talk all the time about 20 million, the need for 20 million new project managers. And then when I look at the membership of PMI, it's somewhere around 600,000. And that's not chapter members. Chapter members is around 300,000. That's pathetic. What is wrong with people? PMI provides an opportunity to grow, to improve, to become much more influential in the world of project management. Yet such a small number of people are taking advantage of it. And for $139 a year to be involved with the leading organization for project management in the world today is a pittance. Is something that we should take advantage of. So some people join just to make friends, just to have associates. Now I know when I was president of the Ohio, Central Ohio, I think this is a question that Kevin missed, if I'm not wrong, a second. And so when I was president there, we used to see the same people at the meetings. Every month we have our monthly meeting. Every month we'd have about 40 people, sometimes 50. It was a good month, or at a free dinner or something. But we had about 40 people. And if you looked around the room, you would notice, I'll be darned, it's usually about the same 40 people. Now, why is that? Well, that's because these 40 people have built up a network of connections that they feel comfortable with. They look forward to that meeting every month so they can get together with their friends and spend time talking about something they have in common, which in this case, project management. So if that's what you like, if that's what you enjoy, then join PMI, join a chapter, and build a friendship circle. So those are two reasons. There's a third reason that I've got down here called make a difference. If you think that you have knowledge or capability that's not being utilized, it's being underutilized, then volunteer to do more. Volunteer to demonstrate the potential value you can add to the organization. Don't be shy. Don't be timid. If I'd done that, I'd still be doing drafting work on the board for General Electric. I'm aggressive. I'm assertive. When I see ways that I can add value, I want to do it. And if nobody else will do it, then I'll volunteer to do it. That's what we've got to make we understand. Let's make a difference. Let's not just pay our $139, pay our 25 for chapter, whatever your chapter is, and then just sit there, or then just come to a meeting once a month. Let's do something. Let's get involved with this operation. We can make a difference. We can make it be worth something far greater than it is right now. Another reason is self-esteem. I mean, some jobs are kind of boring. Some jobs are sort of routine, just same old, same old. And somehow we can volunteer to break out of that same old, and do something that makes us feel special, makes us feel good about what we do. And I'm that way with PMI. I'm now that I'm retired from the quote working world, I'm spending all my time, days and nights essentially, talking to people in the PMI circles about what they can do to make themselves feel better about themselves. And I think it's important that we really want to understand that volunteerism gives you a chance to say to yourself, hey, I'm okay. I'm adding value to the world. I'm doing things that other people aren't doing. And so self-esteem is very important. And linked with that is helping others. I think it's important to understand. I'll give you one little example, and I'll just use her first name. If she happens to be listening, she'll know I'm talking about her. There was a young lady named Vera who worked for IBM, and I did some work for IBM, and Vera happened to be my sponsor. We hit it off. We had good chemistry, and we talked about a lot of things, including volunteerism, including helping others. And so about 3 years or maybe 4 years ago now, Vera contacted me, and she nominated me for one of the PMI awards. So I had a closeness to her for that reason. But she contacted me and she said, Lee, she said, you're going to be surprised, but I'm quitting my IBM job. Now she was one of their senior consultants and making some darn good money. And she said, I'm going to quit my job and go to work for a nonprofit in New York, helping the homeless. And I thought, what has come over her? Giving up a job that most people would buy for with IBM to work in a nonprofit, which I didn't even guess what her salary would have been. Maybe it was nothing. I don't know. And that's what she was going to do. So I said, "What, Vera? I don't get it. Why is that?" She said, "I don't feel like I'm adding any value to society. I don't feel like I'm making a difference. I mean, I'm making money for IBM, and that's important, I suppose. But the fact of the matter is, I want to help people." And so her self-esteem was immediately begun to be built because she was helping people. Well, I just got another email from Vera this week, actually. And Vera said, I've left the homeless organization. I thought, fine, and she's come to her senses, gone back to IBM. She said, I've joined forces with a friend that I've made here, and we are forming our own nonprofit, helping the the homeless in more specific ways in the New York area. And we're looking forward to a big success. And I mean, it was such a in sync with this program because it really demonstrated some of the reasons people volunteer. Vera, very intelligent, very well educated, making very good money with IBM because of her feeling about helping people, left the world that you and I work in a lot to start her own volunteering feel-good program. So that's a specific example that I can tell you works very well. Now, here's another one, visibility. Now, this one is one that I've used extensively. When I volunteer, when I look for things to volunteer for, number one, it needs to be something that I feel, that I can do. But number two, from an organizational perspective, in my earlier days, not so much now, but in my earlier days, I always looked for volunteer opportunities that had high levels of visibility. In other words, I'm a risk taker from the standpoint of volunteering to do a job that has high visibility means it also has high risk. If you fail, it isn't good news. So you've got enough confidence in yourself that you can take on a high visibility volunteer role, like training earned value on a contract that was mandated to have earned value. That's high visibility. And so it always meant a lot to me to be able to do that. A classic example here is the PMP. I mean, I wasn't hired to do the PMP. I volunteered to do the PMP. They came to my organization and started asking about potential people that would add value, and I volunteered. I raised my hand high. I said, "This is an area I'm very interested in. I'd love to participate." And so, and this was visible at the CEO level. I reported to the CEO as a participant in the PMP preparation. And the PMP question you had on the exam today was interesting. I almost missed it because there's two dates that you have to know. We started the development of the PMP in 1981. That was formally announced that we were undertaking a project to create a PMP certification. So the answer was correct. But the other answer that I give oftentimes is that we didn't roll it out until 1984. The first test, the first exam was done at the 1984 symposium in Philadelphia. So those are two different dates. And the date you had was correct. We announced it formally in 1981. I believe it was August of 1981. So visibility, very important. Leadership. Now, what I mean by leadership as a reason to volunteer, it gives you a chance to demonstrate your leadership capabilities. Remember, one volunteer does not a project team make. And so if you have you volunteered to be the project lead, for example, that means you're going to have to create an environment where people want to be there. You're going to have to create an environment where volunteers know what they need to do to continue to add value to the team. So your leadership skills need to be developed. So you're developing new skills. You're developing ways to motivate and inspire others. And so you're learning from this volunteer role. And I think it's important that we need to understand that. So what this last one that I have, and there's probably others, you can name others, maybe others that you specifically use as your reason for joining in volunteering for particular activities. But the last one, of course, is to build a skill set, to be able to get more effective at the skill set you want to develop. Now, this is where some of you have probably participated in in the what is the name of this talking thing? This is where you go in front of people and speak. I can't remember. They have
At TEDx.
what
Are
is
you,
it?
are you mentioning TEDx?
It's well, darn it, what is it? I don't remember. So this is one of the disadvantages of being old. Toastmasters, that's what I'm talking about. It usually comes to me, but sometimes you don't have time to wait. Toastmasters. The reason people join Toastmasters is to build the skill set of presentation capability. And I've got to tell you, from a project management perspective, the ability to make a comprehensive, meaningful presentation is key to your success. If you have all this data, this decision support data, and you can't make a meaningful, comprehensive presentation of that data, then all that knowledge is useless. So the reason Toastmasters has gone so well in project management in 2020, you might remember we had several PMI people. They had a dedicated PMI group that went to Toastmasters and presented their talks at the end of the year. They were unbelievable. I mean, I met some people during those presentations that I've remained friends with ever since. The quality of the presentations were outstanding. And the reason for that is they volunteered to build that skill set. Nobody forced them. They volunteered to build that skill set. Now, some would say, well, but they had to pay a membership fee. And well, even if they paid a membership fee, the return on their investment was unbelievably big. And so we've got to recognize that if we need to build skill sets, we need to identify what those are and then go about building them. And if the organization doesn't give you the opportunity, get involved in a volunteer organization. I built a lot of my knowledge and a lot of my skills in what we call the JC, Junior Chamber of Commerce. And it was totally volunteer, all volunteer. We volunteered for certain roles, responsibilities. We volunteered to be project managers. And so I built a lot of my project management skills in the volunteer arena. So I'm not saying you have to volunteer for PMI. I mean, it makes sense if you can. But if you don't have something in PMI that looks good to you and you can't think of anything you could start on your own, then go in a volunteer organization like a JC's or like a Lions or like a Rotary Club, something where you can get involved with building your skill sets that need to be taken care of. Okay. Another reason that we do it organizationally, we talked about sponsors, is that first of all, it increases productivity. Now, some people will say, how would volunteering increase productivity? Well, the way I see it, and I've evaluated this for some organizations, if someone is volunteering their time and they are highly enjoyable in what they're doing, they have a tendency to translate that back to the real job that they have. They become more efficient, they become more focused, and they literally increase productivity on their regular work in addition to the work that they're volunteering for. So you can see here's the way I see it. Happy workers do more work. So if I can create an environment where they're happy, then they're going to produce more. And when you produce more, that means the per unit cost is cheaper. And so that's something that it's worth thinking about. Now, is it too intangible? I don't think so. I think you can keep track of that kind of information. So increased productivity. Here's the big one. Reduce turnover. If people are happy in what they do, if people think that the organization provides them opportunities to volunteer in areas they're interested in, then there's a higher level of reluctance to even think about moving on to some other organization. So in the paid world, in the for-profit world, this is huge, because every time a intellectual property walks out the door, it has an incredibly bad cost, or high cost, I should say. And so you've got to understand the value, the benefit of those things as they come to you. So when we think about that, we need to understand if we want to reduce turnover. So let me give you another example. My last job was vice president of staff and organizational development. Not because I had a degree in that area, not because I had too much prior experience in there. I just was recognized as a team builder, as a motivator. And so at the time I took the role, we had a turnover rate of 21%. So that means 21%, 21 out of 100 people left the organization every year. The intellectual property impact was incredible. It was off the scale. And so they asked me when I took the role, see if you could find a way to get some control on this attrition or turnover problem. We're losing too many people. There's got to be some systemic issue that needs to be resolved. Well, there was. The people didn't like being there. People they weren't enjoying themselves. They weren't having fun. They didn't see any outside opportunities to expand their skill sets. They basically were looking for a chance to get the heck out of there. And so we started a program that identified volunteers and interests of volunteers. Now, PMI has this with the VRMS system where you register your volunteer interests, and the system helps match up interests with opportunities. And so the PMI's thought ahead of this. Now we're expanding that and improving it all the time. But the fact of the matter is, if you register in the VRMS as a potential volunteer and you identify those areas you'd like to get involved in, then hopefully we can connect. We can put all that together. So that's what I kind of did at this organization. And we came up within about a year, we had a fully implemented process. And so we kept data. And the second year after we had implemented that, our turnover rate, our attrition rate was down to 7%. So it went from 21% to 7%, using the same concepts that I'm talking about with you today. Volunteerism, it's so much bigger than most people recognize. I mean, most people look at, they just want somebody to do something for nothing. Well, if that's the way you see it, then that's all it'll be. But it's a lot more than that. And I think it's important that you understand that. You understand the issue. So let me go through a few things that I did just as reference, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about how that all works. But first I want to identify, I asked the PMI chapter at West Bengal, I said, you guys must have something going on. I said, what are some chapter projects that you got people volunteering for? Because everybody has volunteers, some more, some less, but they're all got some projects that either you can tie up the one that's been identified, or what I believe in is I see a need and then I fill it with a new project and load it up with new volunteers. So if you don't see what you like right now, then create it. That's something you have the ability to. Remember, it's a volunteer organization. What are they going to do? Fire you? So take the chance. So I looked at it, and then they got back to me with a list. I don't want to make any mistakes, so I'm going to look at my list. The first project they mentioned, which I think they were most proud of, was PM as a life skill training sessions conducted in local language for teens. What a great idea! In PMI, we've even started down at the lower mid-level, down at the mid-teens or low teens, even in some elementary schools, because when we look at it, the sooner they can understand the concepts of project management, the more effectively they will manage their quote life and the things that come up in their life. So that was a great one, and that one's had wonderful feedback in terms of people taking advantage of that learning. And in the interim, we inspire teens. Now, teens are a tough group. They got their own minds, and so this has given us a chance to have an impact on those teens. PM as a life skill. What a great title. Then we have the workshops that looked at Save the Children, which really looked at what can we do to help them improve, to help them become better and more effective in the world that they live in. We want that to be something that is very important. The third one they gave me, which is kind of near and dear to my heart, not because I currently have this issue, it could happen any minute, is helping train the staff at the mental hospital, at the Pavlov Mental Hospital. Help the staff understand the kinds of things that need to be done to deliver their, quote, product to the patients at the hospital. So those are three very meaningful help other kinds of projects. And not only is the project helping other, but the projects help you as an other learn the things it needs to be effective. So these are three dynamite projects, and I encourage you to continue those and add some new ones, come up with some ideas that you think need to be done in your community, and then create a project to do it. PMI will support it. I've never seen them turn projects down. So if we get that kind of idea going, it's going to build on the usefulness of the organization. And of course, of doing that, of course, people are looking at going, hey, who's doing this project? And they said, well, that's a PMI group, and here's the kind of thing. Well, hell, I should be a part of that. And next thing you know, you got new members coming in. So there's so many residual values to this volunteer business that you need to be sure you understand. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go through a quick list of some of the things that I got involved in that we'll talk in detail in the second half. But obviously the PMP, that's been the most impactful project that I got involved in. There were 5 of us on the original committee. Sadly, 2 of them have passed away, and 2 of them have directly retired. So I'm kind of the last man standing when it comes to PMP. So I watch it pretty closely. I still send congratulatory notes to everyone who passes the PMP exam. It's important to me. And so I continue the legacy of the PMP, but getting that off the ground took advantage of some of the things that we talked about. I was one of 5. I wasn't the project leader. Project leader was a guy named Dean Martin, who was a professor at Western Carolina University. And Dean saw the value of that. Dean was an outstanding leader, volunteer himself, and recruited just a dynamite team of people, as noted by the success of the PMP. There are now about 1.3 million PMPs in the world today. They're in almost every country we have chapters in. And so it's been very, very successful. But as we proceeded, you could see that each of us in the committee had our specific areas of responsibility, and we were able to do what we needed to do as volunteers to get our job done. So the PMP, huge. In fact, the PMP, and I'm not taking credit here, I'm giving credit to the PMP, is really what breathed life into the idea of PMI. I mean, in 1984, our membership was, we had members, but it wasn't anything to get excited about. But once we started the PMP and once it became a certification methodology for companies like IBM and AT&T and those kinds of organizations, the numbers of members went off the wall. And so we've had great success with that. We spawned out of that many more certifications for specific areas within the talent skill set of project management, of which have been fairly successful as well. My other really important one that I think to me was most important is the one that allowed me to volunteer to revive the Central Ohio PMI chapter. Now, when I moved to Columbus, Ohio, it was 1981, as a matter of fact, the same year that I started to work on the PMP. When I volunteered to take on the revitalization of the Ohio chapter. Now, this is an interesting story. The Ohio chapter was the third chapter in the world to be validated, to be certified, given a charter by PMI, what's become global, but it's PMI at the time. The first was Houston, the second was San Francisco, and the third, believe it or not, was Central Ohio. And so when I got there, I was going to work for an organization called the Project Management Division of a major organization. And so it was obvious that I should become involved with the chapter. But when I started to look into joining the chapter and becoming a member, well, here's what I found. The chapter was on suspension. The chapter had a total of 3 members, and they had 3 months left before they would withdraw their charter. Well, when I saw that, I thought, what? There's something wrong here. There's something wrong. When the third chapter in the world has got 3 members, what is the problem? So I started to look into it, and what I found was nobody had represented the chapter. Everybody represented themselves. They were all there to see what they could get out of it for themselves. And so you can't do that. Volunteerism isn't about just you. It's about a plethora of people and organizations and lifestyles. And so I looked into that and I said, well, it's pretty obvious. We need to go out into the project management community and convince them that this has something to offer, that there's benefits for them and for what they do by being a member of the project management organization. And so I did that. I got actively involved, thankfully, with the endorsement of my CEO, who, when you're CEO of a project management division, you're certainly not going to turn down a chance to support PMI. And so he did that very realistically. And so I got active, and within 2 months, our membership had gone from 3 members to 103 members in 2 months. Now, many of them, and I admit this wholeheartedly, many of them worked in my division, the project management division. I don't have any, I'm not ashamed to say that. The fact of the matter was, they probably joined for visibility. Here's this new guy taking over this area in the project. And so I'm going to join and volunteer. I don't really care why. The fact of the matter is they joined, we've revitalized the chapter, and it's been positive ever since. I was president for 2 years. I stayed on a second year. Now organizations have sort of a 2-year arrangement. You're the PMI chapter member, newly elected, and then you're chapter member, and then the third year is you're on the board of directors as chairman of the board. And so it's a big commitment, but people wanted to see this happen. So we went from 3 to 103. Now, let me tell you, that was in 1981. Now, here we are in 2022. Now, someone would say, and I would agree, the proof is in the pudding. That's a saying, kind of stupid, I think, but the fact of the matter is, the pudding right now for Central Ohio is that they have over 2,000, right on the edge of 3,000 members. 3,000, not 3,000 members. So have they seen the value? Of course. Have they increased their volunteerism in the community? Of course. They're working with higher education. They're working with middle schools. They're working with community projects. They're everywhere. They're doing things that never would have been done had a PMI chapter not provided support. So if you think you're here just for the heck of it, if you think you're here just to say hi to your buddy next month, think about it again. think, what have you done for your community lately? What have you done for your chapter lately? Look for things that you can add value. Don't put any monetary significance on it. Don't talk to me about what am I getting for my chapter dues or what am I getting for my PMI global dues. That's ridiculous. That's such a small amount of money. Now I know in regions the value of money is varied. And PM is looking at a tiered way to do this, so it's more amenable to lesser countries that their standard of living is different than the Americas or some of the other more robust countries. But the fact of the matter is, there's room for everybody. And so if you're focusing on the dollar amount for paying into a membership, I don't know, it's a big mistake. I think that we do the regional meetings, sectional meetings, the global summit. The summit this year, December 1st through the 3rd, is in Las Vegas. Now, how are you going to turn a trip to Las Vegas down? And in the trip to Vegas comes 3 days of learning, of expanding, of improving based on incredible opportunities presented to you by the PMI organization. This is a huge event, and it's our first full-scale summit since the pandemic. So if you have a way to make it, if you can do things that earn yourself some way to go to Las Vegas, not to gamble, not to see shows, but to see what you can learn from PMI, please do whatever you can to make that happen. And the last one, and then I'm going to turn it back over to the organization for a little while. They want to show a video that I'm told is really good. I haven't seen it yet myself, so I'm anxious to see. And the last one is for volunteerism for visibility. I found that one of the most visible, not just to my organization, but actually to the entire community that I work for, was that I volunteered to be the United Way loaned executive for my organization. Now, getting someone to volunteer to be the loaned executive for the United Way is like, as they say, pulling teeth. You don't have a long line of people with their hand up. So what I saw was, here's an opportunity to interact with a lot of executives. That's important, to learn executive speak, to learn how to deal with executives. But on the other side is an incredible level of visibility. People are going to be seeing that and saying to themselves, wow, Lambert's volunteered to be the loan executive. What a commitment he's making to the community. And so you see, while I enjoy doing what I'm doing, there's residual benefits. High levels of visibility come with some of these particular volunteer activities. All right, so I'm gonna stop there and turn it back over to the organization to show you a little video they've prepared, so you kind of get a sense of what your West Bengal chapter. Now, those of you who have joined from all over the world, this is one of the advantages I have, is that I do have some name recognition around the world. And so I get people from around the world that join these webinars. God bless webinars, because it's opened up the place of impact tremendously. So I can impact. I saw Andrea Pratt Smith's name on the screen. She's from the Bahamas, currently hanging out in Atlanta. I'm sure there's people from all over the world. I want to welcome you. West Bengal wants to welcome you. And I'll turn it back to you for the video presentation.
Thank you, Lee. Just a moment. Pratik, can you just play the video?
Pallav, Pratik is having a trouble. So either yourself or Sumit, if you could play the video which talks about the West Bengal chapter. Yeah.
Yes, I am just doing it. I'm just doing it.
while Pallav, just starts the video, just for all of you participants, we do have a PDU for this session, and we will share the PDU at the end of the session. Just a reminder to all the participants. Thank you. So Lee, that was a short presentation wherein we tried to put in some pieces of our work. I was just wondering if it is okay if we can ask you a few questions, because we had a deluge of questions in the chat. So maybe a few questions before you take the rest of your session. Lee, you're on mute.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if you've got questions, I've got answers.
Okay, great. I'm sure you
Awesome.
do. So I hand over to Sumit. So he has been collating the questions. Sumit, yeah.
Awesome. So can you see my screen? Is my screen visible?
I can.
Okay. So Lee, we have a couple of questions. So one question from Kevin. As a 28-year PMI volunteer at local, regional, and national and global level, what are some impactful and innovative ideas for recognition of the value that volunteers can contribute freely?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know Kevin's been doing this probably as long as I have, I think what I'm focusing on right now is some way to recognize volunteers in a more meaningful way. Now, I'm not taking away from the plaques and the trophies, and I've got more hardware than Tom Brady. But the fact of the matter is, what really matters to me is when we're done with the project as a volunteer, that somebody takes my hand and shakes it, puts their arm around me, and says thanks for what you've achieved. I think that's what people ultimately feel important about. I know it's good for recognition, and I love to clap for the people that get a plaque or an honor like that. It's one way we can recognize them, but the long-lasting meaningfulness of it is lost when you throw it in a box with the rest of them. And so I think we have to be more directly involved in congratulating or appreciating, I think it's really a better word, the work of volunteers.
Thank you, Lee. We have a couple of more questions from Shemonti Shen. So how should PMI volunteers differentiate themselves in view of ESG initiatives?
Is this ESG, the environmental stuff? Is that what you're talking about here? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, here's the way you differentiate yourself. You join them. If you can't fight them, join them. And so what we've done, many of the PMI chapters now are trying to keep track of initiatives that they take that reduces the footprint that they leave on the planet. I think that's the only way. I mean, because it is important. I mean, this environmental stuff's important, not for us, but for our children and our children's children. And so I don't think we want to fight them. I don't think we want to ignore them. I think we need to join them.
Great. Thank you, Lee. And one more follow-up question from Shemanti is, in view of rapid technology advancement in the areas like AI, ML, augmented reality, etc., how do you see future positioning of project managers, a technocrat who understand project management principles, or an expert in project management principles who also understand the technology?
No, we're not no technocrat. No technocrat, okay? You can be technical all you want. I mean, and this is, it was stated perfectly up till then. But no, I think there'll be experts in project management. I teach an AI class, and what I basically tell them is that, all this is going to do for you as a project manager is speed up the decision-making process. It's going to give you better, more reasonable information in a much shorter period of time. But at the end of the day, the machine's not going to make the decision for you. So technocrats, you can talk about it all day long, and they love to. If you're one of them, I apologize. But the fact of the matter is, just because you're a technocrat does not make you a project manager.
Okay, I think we can move to the next session, but before that, we have a quick question from Arun. Do we get volunteering opportunities abroad? And how many hours do you suggest an individual can contribute is ideal?
The answer to the first question is yes. I think although it's been criticized that it's not working as well as it could, and I think that's probably true, we're working a lot on it, is this VRMS system where you register that you're interested in certain volunteering opportunities. So I think you can get them. I don't think they're easy to get just simply because a lot of people are interested in them. But you can get them abroad. I've done volunteering abroad several times, and there's nothing better. I mean, what a great opportunity to expand your skill set base and learn a different culture. So I think that's important, and I think the answer is yes. Now, how many hours you suggest? Well, that's almost impossible to say. I think that really depends on the person. Now, I'll give you a horror story here. I ended up being I was going to say fired, but that's not really the right term. I actually was asked to leave a GE organization because I found I was spending more time doing volunteer work at work than I was doing work. And my boss, for some reason, didn't appreciate that. And so he warned me several times, but once this volunteer thing's in your blood, it's hard to control it. And so I kept doing it. So he finally said, I think you should probably look for other opportunities. Well, I did, and that's how I ended up doing earned value training. But so good things come from bad things. But in terms of the amount of time, I think it's really up to you. People will tell you if you could donate 2 hours a week. I mean, that's 2 hours they didn't have before you started. So the more you can donate and feel comfortable with and not impact negatively your career, then I would suggest you do that.
Okay, thank you, Lee. I mean, we have a few more questions. Maybe we can, take all those questions after the
Sure,
second.
that's fine.
Okay, so I'll hand it over to Pratik.
No.
You're the question?
No. Now we again go back to Lee for the next part of his session. Lee, you can continue your.
Oh, okay. We want to go on to the second part of the session.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So
Thank you.
here's the thing. I'm going to tell you right now. I decided, probably 1981, I decided that instead of making project management my career, I was going to make volunteering my career. So I became a career volunteer. And by that, what I meant was I looked for chances to do things nobody else was doing, to volunteer, to take on responsibilities that for whatever reason, whether they were fearful, whether they didn't feel adequate, I don't care why, but things that weren't being done, okay? And the first one I took on was actually a training role for fundamental project management, basic project management. Now we're working in a project management division. So some people thought that if we called it a project management division, then everybody would be project managers. Well, they might have a title at them, but they weren't. They were stupid. They had no idea what the role of project management was about. So I volunteered to develop and implement a basic project management training program. So in the course of about, I'd say probably 6 months, I trained about 300 project managers that had the title, but no knowledge of being a project manager. When they got done, I gave them an exam, a little more difficult than the one you gave today, but I gave them an exam, and they almost all passed with pretty good colors. Now, what that meant was, now if a Department of Energy, who was our sponsor for this program, and this program was $300 million a year, so I mean that's not peanuts, that's a lot of money. If our sponsors started to ask it, in other words, they go to lunch, you know how that works. They go, well, let's go have lunch and see how things are going. Well, next thing they do, they're trying to get information they don't get in the formal reporting process. And so they start having these conversations. Well, if they start asking questions and your answer was, I don't know, then they got a pretty good sense that they're paying for what they're not getting. And so every one of these 300 could go to lunch with the sponsor representative and have a reasonably intelligent conversation about project management. And so that started my recognition as a transferer of knowledge. And I like that. I think if I can have that kind of an impact, I will do that on almost every occasion. So that morphed into PMI coming to me in about 1989, 88, 89, somewhere there, and asking me to lead a 2-day course in their seminars and symposium. That's what it's now, it's called PM training. And PM training is really just seminars and symposium carried over with a new name for recognition. And so I agreed to do that. And I taught that course for them for about 10 years, I think, roughly 10 years, something like that. And the difference with the PMI training stuff, back in those days, it was only done at the National Symposium. Once a year, we would do it. Now they're doing it in locales all over the states and even internationally. But at that time, we just did it one time a year. And so when we did it one time a year, we would literally have participants from all over the world, multiple languages and multiple cultures. And it made the job of transferring that knowledge just that much more challenging, and which meant it was fun. I loved it. And so for about 10 years, that's what I did. And then we started to change that program a little bit. I felt like I could have a bigger impact in other ways. And so I dropped out of the program, and others picked it up. They changed it a little bit, but I found that they were asking me to co-teach parts of the program, which meant a different style, a different approach. And I was comfortable with that for a couple of years. And finally I said, no, it's time to move on. I can have a bigger impact for other places. And so in 1984, when we went live with the PMP process, I began to organize to go out privately and teach courses that were awarded PDUs. Okay, you got to remember, not only did I help create the PMP world, but that along with that came the idea that you have to have PDUs, or in the other part of the world, we call them CEUs, continuing education units. We call them professional development units, to maintain your certification. So I designed a whole series of courses that were value add from a learning standpoint. Don't get me wrong. I didn't create these courses for people to get PDUs. It was the other way around. They took the course, they learned the material, and oh, by the way, at the end of the course, they get awarded PDUs. So I created these programs and started to teach them publicly. So now I'm not working for PMI. I'm not working for General Electric. I'm working for Lee Lambert. And so I went out with my publicity, so to speak. And at the time, the PMP thing had just really taken off. And the PDU thing, of course, then was trailing right behind it. And so there weren't that many people doing it. So I was a leader in the field. And so my programs, my programs filled up. I would teach a leadership program with 80 people in it. And 80 people at a very reasonable fare. And so that went on for several years. I earned some pretty high marks, which helped in future programs, obviously. And so that went on for, well, I went on for 10 years. So I was teaching this for 10 years. And in between, wherever I had a chance, I'd volunteer for other PMI activities. If I saw a program that looked exciting and enticing and I could add some value to, I'd volunteer for that effort, again, for visibility. I didn't want to drop out of sight of PMI. I mean, I'm now, I think there's some, I've asked for some identification, but I haven't gotten it yet. There's some people older, PMI older than I am, but not a lot of them. I've been with them for a long time. The only one I know for sure is Max Wiseman, who was out on the West Coast, who now is in New York, and Max is 95 years old. I'm 76. I'm a spring chicken compared to Max, and he's a fellow, as am I, and he still comes to meetings. I saw him at the 2019 Global Summit, and he's still looking pretty doggone good. So I'm sure there's others as well. But the point I want to make is I didn't want to drop out. I've never wanted to drop out of PMI. I get questions all the time because I'm on LinkedIn all the time saying, why do you keep supporting PMI? They're changed too much. They're not like the PMI of old. And you know, no organization's like the organization of old. If they didn't proceed to expand and move and improve, then they wouldn't be around. Old organizations that stay old die. And so I'm just moving along with PMI. I'm moving where they're going. People are saying, well, you know, this whole agile, everything's agile now. That's all PMI thinks about is agile. Well, first of all, that's not true. And second of all, agile is pretty important right now. Agile has taken the IT environment by storm. It's almost like if you don't understand agile, you might not get a job in IT anymore. So you're going to just ignore that, play like it's not there. So PMI is trying to service both worlds, the predictive world, which is the world I grew up in, and the agile world, the idea that things can be done differently. And so we have to keep that in mind, that we can't stay locked down the old while the new passes us by. So those of you who are criticizing PMI for what they're doing, wake up, smell the coffee. We're going to grow. We're going to continue to grow, but for the right reasons. And so the best you can do is some of the greatest contributors to PMI have taken this tone, and I don't understand it. So I'm asking people, give some serious thought to why PMI is doing the things they're doing. They're not doing them by accident. And so we want to do that. So anyway, so I taught those for about 10 years. I got involved with an organization called ESI, Educational Services Institute, which was aligned with George Washington University. So I earned my master's from George Washington University. I taught a 7-course curriculum for George Washington University, which I did for about 7 or 8 years. Then they sold the company. The guy that owned ESI at the time sold the company, and you know how that is. Everything changed. New broom sweeps clean. That whole kind of thinking, and they started changing some fundamental concepts that I didn't necessarily agree with. So I didn't want to cause a problem for the organization by not agreeing. So I basically got out of the organization and started doing it totally on my own. Took on a program that I'll talk about a little bit later, which really demonstrated all the things that I'd learned over those 20 some years of working in this field, almost 30 by then. And so I came to learn a tremendous amount. I mean, I'm not overly intelligent. I mean, I put on the perception maybe that I am, but the fact of the matter is, what I am is I am a quick learner. So if I find something that I should know and I don't, then I invest some time to learn it. And so by now I've learned a lot of what I should. I'm in that throw right now with Agile. I don't feel comfortable that I understand Agile as well as somebody who's positioned as a quote expert in project management should. So I'm working on that. And I'm honest enough to admit that. And I'll admit things I don't know. I think that's something we should all do. If you know, say so. If you don't, say so. And so that way we can keep that knowledge base clean. And so I've been doing that for a few years now. I recognize that that the PMI organization was moving in a different direction than they had previously. I recognized that I wanted to play a role in that. I met with Sunil Prashara, the the CEO at that time in the 2019 summit in Philly. And I offered to take on a role, to create a new role. Remember, I said, if you see a need and there's not something there, then fill it, volunteer to fill it. So that's exactly what I did. I volunteered to become a PMI ambassador at large. In other words, I don't necessarily report to anybody except maybe Sunil. I have the freedom to come and go and talk and meet, the trust to not misrepresent the organization. So that was the idea. Sunil liked the idea. Okay, of course he was doing a lot of new and exciting things at the time, and so he had me meet with Joe Cahill. Now Joe was #2 guy at the time, and I've come to know Joe quite well. He's a great guy, and so he and I had breakfast together in Philadelphia, and he actually simply. He said, what do you want out of this? And I tried to explain what I was after, what I wanted the end outcome to be. And I thought I explained it fairly well. And I think Joe understood it fairly well. He said, okay, well, look, let me talk to Sunil. We'll see how, I raised the concern of organizational distraction, people being angry that they're not have the control over me or whatever. And so he said, let me talk to Sunil, see how we place it in the organization. So about 2 weeks later, he called me up and he said, well, listen, he said, we love the idea, but Sunil and I couldn't see a place where it would really fit without causing trouble within the organization. And we got enough upheaval going on right now that we don't want to add anything else. He said, so, maybe later, but not right now. Okay. And so I understand your decision. I was fine with that. And so I decided what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and keep volunteering to speak. Except now, instead of volunteering to make money, all of my speeches, all of my webinars, all of my everything for that matter, is absolutely free. I do it free. I will come wherever your chapter is, virtually for sure. If you want me live, which I've done live, done Dubai, done Riyadh, doing Brazil, doing Morocco live. If you want me live, you got to reimburse my travel expense. I'm gracious, but not that gracious. So if I come live, I come free of charge, but you got to pay my expenses. If you come virtual like this program, hell, this program's awesome. I'm going to spend almost 2 hours with you guys, and it's not costing the chapter a nickel. And I'm loving every darn minute of it. I've often told people I do this for nothing, and I'll be darned if I'm not doing it for nothing. And so I'm going to keep doing that. And I kept doing that right away. And finally, my LinkedIn presence, which is, this is another way to take advantage of volunteerism, find opportunities through LinkedIn. I have 30,000, which is the limit. They won't give me any more connections on LinkedIn, and 38,000 followers. So I've got 80,000 people that pay attention to what I say. Well, that's a pretty good group of influencers. And so I use the LinkedIn to let people know, hey, if you've got a topic that I can add value to, I'm free. Just let me know. And by that, what I'm doing is I'm increasing my speaking skills, certainly my speaking skills. And for other programs, I increased my support materials, my slideshows. And so I'm benefiting from it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not doing it for nothing. What I'm getting is increased value in terms of what I do. But I think it's important to realize that that's an easy ask, because I've already told everybody in the world, ask and ye shall receive. And so a lot of people don't believe it. They think I have ulterior motives. You can ask anybody that I've done a free program for. I don't. I've never gone back to them and said, okay, now that you did a free one, I want to have you pay for one. I haven't done that. That's all about volunteerism. That's what volunteerism is about. I've recognized a need. And the need is people in these chapters and in this PMI world need someone they can trust, need someone they can have faith in that will represent the world of project management in a meaningful, professional way. So that's my role right now. That's the role I've taken on. I've had that role for about 2 years. Well, I started to analyze the role the other day, and I think I said this to someone, I can't remember who. What I said basically was, what I am actually is sort of an at-large ambassador. and I had a big laugh about that because that's what Joe and Sunil said. Well, we can't do that. Well, so far I haven't had any complaints from the organizational structure PMI. I'm sure now there will be. But the fact of the matter is that's what I do. I'm here for anybody, anywhere, anytime. And so that's the idea behind it. You need to do the same. Remember, look at your career, okay? Find those areas where your career could be better. You could be doing things that are more financially rewarding, more personally gratifying, and then go about doing them. Find ways to do them. Find places. If your chapter doesn't have them, create one. If you can't create one, find another organization that creates that kind of capability. But get involved. Why would you not capitalize on a no-cost opportunity like volunteerism? That's what we want to see. We're looking at the year 2022-23 as a year of volunteerism. We want to step it up. We've got the percentages. What did I say? We had America 42% and 30% women. But the fact of the matter is, we can improve on that. That should be 60, 70, 80%. We should all be volunteering to help others, to help ourselves, to improve the world. And so those kinds of things are important. And if it happens to be an ESG project, jump on it. Do something that's going to help people in the environment, but take advantage of the opportunity that's presented to you. I think that's very, very important for us to think about that in that way. Okay, let me go on now to tell a few little stories. We're getting close to the end of our 2-hour time allotment. I can't believe where the time went. It's just unbelievable. And we need a little more time for that video. So let me do a couple more little pieces, and then I'm going to leave time for the video if I can. And so one of the things that I did, there's two really I want to talk about in terms of projects. In my older days, when I didn't look the way I look now, I was a professional softball player. I mean, I got paid to play softball. Okay, and I was at JC in Livermore, California, JC's, and I looked at the JC's and I thought, we should sponsor a softball tournament. We've got some. In fact, I had a team for the company I worked for. JC should sponsor a softball tournament. And so I set about doing that. Now we had to write a plan. It's called a chapter planning guide. It's sort of like a charter that we have in project management. And so we had to write that down, how we would do it, who would do blah, 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 blah. And we did all that work, and we created a softball team, softball project, sorry. We created a softball project, and within 5 years, it was the most premier softball tournament in California. And it's because we had a group of people who loved softball, who volunteered to make that tournament the best. And so from that, not only did I volunteer to start the tournament, I then learned how to lead a group of volunteers to maximize the effectiveness. So not only did I get my project management practice on the tournament, but I got it on the leadership that was necessary to reach that level of quality after only 5 years. Okay, that's one. Second one, and then I'll turn it back to the group. Second one was at Halloween time. I don't know how it is where you live, but at Halloween time, some of the people that celebrate Halloween are celebrating it for the wrong reason. They're usually teenagers, and sorry, teens, but that's the way it is. They're usually teenagers, and they cause trouble. They break things, they write on things, they tear things up. They're troublemakers, and they get their big thrill out of ruining stuff. And so we knew that in our town of Livermore, and we decided. I decided that shouldn't happen. Those kids should have alternate outlets for their energy. I said, why don't we do this? Why don't we, during the week of Halloween, why don't we build and operate a haunted house? Now, this was back in the mid 70s. This was before every town had its haunted house and everybody was doing it. This was one of the early ones. We wanted to have a haunted house that would draw the teenagers so that they could come there, have a good time, get the heck scared out of them, have a good time, and we could make some money. It was a moneymaker for the JCs. It was a benefit project, essentially, okay? And so we did that, and we got use of a city facility, gutted it, and built our own haunted house inside this building. This was a major construction project. So I had a construction project manager volunteer to lead that. We built the inside. We went out to get sponsors, meaning sponsors of rooms that would come in and build their own room and participate for nothing other than the potential to win a prize as the best room. So we did all that. We got all that stuff. We opened the haunted house. Crowds were unbelievable. But at one time, at one night, we had almost 10,000 kids go through that haunted house. And it was that way all week long. Well, at the end of the week, I gathered some criminal justice data, meaning some crime rate data for teenagers during that week. And the crime rate percentages went from 61% down to 22%, a 40-some% decline in criminal justice problems. Well, what can you say? What can you say? It was quote a successful project, successful in every possible way. The benefits the kids got, the benefits the people we donated the money to, the benefits the JCs got to see what an incredible project they could do, the benefit I got for that project being named Project of the Year in California, and it goes on and on. All volunteerism. Well, that volunteerism mentality carried on to PMI. And if you haven't had that previous gift like I did, then you may have to start from scratch if you haven't done volunteering. But I assure you, if you do it and you do it right, you'll have it in your blood. You won't be able to stop. You will love every minute of the opportunity to volunteer in your organization. Now, I hope that this has been helpful to those of you who were considering volunteering, for those of you who definitely want to volunteer. Maybe the hardest job you have will be finding a spot that doesn't exist yet and creating it. That there's no more gratitude anyone can give you than reaching that level of volunteerism. But even if it's just filling that 2-hour-a-week job, helping a project manager do their thing, that's going to add value. You're going to love it. You're going to feel good about it. And I'll be glad that we got together today. So I thank you all for coming. I'm disappointed only 200 people were able to come out of 550 who wanted to come. Sunday morning, I could have said it was a sermon and people would have come thinking it was church, but I didn't. And so I appreciate it. The chapter's awesome. They've been great to work with. I'm actually looking at, and you guys may be able to help me later on, I want to come do a tour of the chapters in India. And they could share the cost of travel. And I want to make a tour. I'm a member of Mumbai. I'm a member of Kerala. I'm a member of 3 or 4 PMI chapters in India. But I want to see more than that. I didn't know West Bengal existed, and now I'm excited about having an association with you. So You may be hearing from us again. I really want to do a tour.
So yeah, Lee,
Thank you so much,
we would be glad to have you over in India, and we have Abhishek here on the call today. He's attending as a participant. So he works with PMI India. So we will just check out and reach back to you, Lee. And definitely looking forward to have you as our member also of the West Bengal chapter. So before we sort of end and the participants, first of all, thank you very much for joining. But if you could just hold on for a couple of minutes, because we have a short video which talks about what some of our lead volunteers or some of our CAPM participants think about volunteering, because we thought that that would be a nice way to end about what the people say about volunteering. So Sumit, if you could just start on the video, please.
Good,
Yeah,
no problem.
And also, please, everyone, wait. I mean, we have a small token of appreciation for Lee as well. Just give me a moment.
Yes, just hang on for 5 more extra minutes, please.
This chapter is a very dear friends. This is Pallav Rohati from Beetle Teletech Limited. I have been associated with PMI West Bengal chapter for just 1 year. This chapter is a very nice and agile chapter as they give you opportunity to learn and lead. I have learned a lot of leadership qualities from leading various projects that are associated with this chapter. Thank you everyone for listening to me.
Hi everyone, my name is Joyita Chakraborty. Currently I am doing my master's in communication studies at Texas Tech University. I'm also the graduate part-time instructor for public speaking and business communications in the university. Prior to this, I did my MBA in communication management with specialization in public relations and worked in the marketing and communications domain for about 2 years. I did my CAPM training in July 2021, and it helped me understand the nuances of project management. So I believe that it is important to give back to the society, and it is very purposeful for me. And the training helped me understand how to manage risk and communicating effectively with my stakeholders. And my stakeholders now are students and my professors. And before it was clients from the health and tech sector and from the lifestyle sector. So communicating, crafting specific messages for them and understanding the probable risks that are associated with any relationship that I maintain with my stakeholders is very important. So this is how I've learned how to do it better. So I even implement those project management lessons in class and outside class today. And I believe that this learning is very valuable. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Sushant Mohanty. For me, volunteer means you are making connections and working side by side with others. You are connected with the community, you are connected with the problem as well as the solution. You are bringing your special skills or talents to the table. Thanks to PMI West Bengal chapter, helped on project management skills for life that provides knowledge, tools and techniques to deliver something of value to the community.
Hello, I am Ohirjoy Biswas, currently working in a public sector bank in Mumbai. I am a member of PMI West Bengal chapter for more than a decade. To me, volunteering means a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment, which I get when I share my knowledge with others. I have contributed in creating and reviewing technical content for PMI SAP training material for the chapter in 2022. Engagement with West Bengal chapter has helped me to stay in touch with the latest development and best practices in project management area, as I had done my PMP almost 10 years back. Also, the lunch and learn sessions and webinars have provided me very interesting insights about many complex projects across industries. So, I am very happy and content with me being a member of PMI West Bengal chapter. Thank you so much.
Sumit, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was speaking in mute. Okay, so I'll hand over to Priyanka for a small token of appreciation. Is my screen visible?
Yes, now it
Yes.
is.
Yes, Amit. Thank you. Thanks, Lee, for a wonderful and insightful session. On behalf of PMI West Bengal chapter, we will like to present you a certificate of plantation by Sankalp Taru. So Sankalp Taru is an IT-enabled NGO who actually believes in the core philosophy of planting greens and by the people and for the people. As we speak, Sankalp Taru plants 5 trees in your name that helps reduction of the carbon footprint. So once again, thank you, Lee, for a very wonderful and insightful session on behalf of PMI West Bengal chapter. With that, I hand it
Let
over
me
to-
ask you a question. Did you send me this plantation thing already?
We will, Lee. We wanted to surprise you during the session, and we will send
Yeah,
it to
no,
you.
I think I got it this morning. I was so excited. I looked at the damn
Okay.
tree going like, that's my tree.
Yes, because I thought, I mean, all of us, we thought that, giving you any other certificate is meaningless, right? I mean, we just need you to be immortal, and this is a way of being immortal in this practice. So thank you very much, Lee, for being with us this evening. It has been a very enlightening session, and I mean, you sort of reiterated the adage that volunteers do not get paid, not because they are worthless, but because they are priceless.
That's right.
So thank you so much. I just want to also thank the core team, which has helped to put this event. So to begin with Pallav, because he has been the bridge between the chapter and yourself, Lee. Also calling out Pratik, who has been coordinating the session, Sumit, Priyanka, Tamal, Uday, Ramajit, they have all been working in the background. Aurobindo, who helped us to collate the questions for the quiz. And just wanted to let you know that we still have a plethora of questions in the chat box. And I think the next time we need to have a 3-hour session with you.
Yes, I
that
think
we can
so.
also the questions. But thank you very much, and thanks to all the participants. So the PDU code is on the screen. All of you, you can please take a note of the PDU code, and you can claim the PDU hours. So thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Welcome, Lee.
Welcome,
And
Lee. Welcome,
I'm
Lee.
sure we'll get you in other sessions also, and definitely look forward to have you in person in India. We'll work that out. Thank you.
And
Take care.
please join our chapter.
I'll do it this weekend.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I was about to forget, Lee. Advance happy birthday to you.
Yes.
So, Lee,
Oh, you sweetheart. Thank you very much.
Just a few
I
hours.
just informed
I feel
us.
young. I feel young right now, but tomorrow I won't.
Thank you. So signing off from the West Bengal chapter. Thank you, participants, for joining us today. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.